Hey, hockey fans, it's Stina Rocks Hockey Talk. And as promised, we are going to discuss the Seattle Kraken. We're going to discuss their expansion draft, some of the prospects that I think, that are going to be taken by Seattle. And we're going to go in depth with all of the teams. So here we go. A lot of you may not remember. It has been a couple of years since the Vegas Golden Knights expansion draft. So here's a refresher, in case you forgot. The 2021 NHL expansion draft will take place on July 21st. And it's going to be basically the same rules that Vegas had. So teams will be having a protected list and a unprotected list. So all protected players are players that have a no movement clause, or they are players who are ineligible. So the Seattle Kraken will select one player from all 31 teams except for Vegas. So Vegas is exempt, lucky. The total is 30, but they can select a minimum of 20 and then fill their roster with trades. So the roster that they're going to compile will be a minimum of 14 forwards, 9 defensemen, and 3 goalies. Again, not including any players acquired through the expansion draft. The players that Seattle chooses must have a contract through the 21-22 regular season, and those with an aggregate expansion draft value between 60 and 100% of the prior season's upper limit for the salary cap. And Seattle cannot buy out any players chosen in the expansion draft until the following summer after their first year. So current NHL teams, same as before, they can protect either, you have 2 choices, 7 forwards, 3 defensemen, 1 goalie, or they can do 8 skaters and 1 goalie. Again, protected players have to be players who have a no movement clause. And if they do have one and their team wants to leave them unprotected for Seattle, the player would have to waive the movement clause. So pretty standard rules, easy to follow. For those of you hoping your favorite rookie doesn't get picked up by Seattle, don't worry. Here's the next part. All first and second year NHL players and all unsigned draft choices will be exempt. So which players do we expect to expose and protect? Which players are the Kraken going to get their tentacles in? So we're going to go through this team by team, and I hope that you enjoy my analysis. Leave your comments and like and subscribe this video if you like it. So we'll start with Calgary. The Flames. I believe the Flames are going to leave Milan Lucic unprotected. He carries a $5.25 million cap hit for the next 2 years. And even though he has a no trade, no movement clause, he has waived it. And he hails from nearby Vancouver, so I think he could easily become a fan favorite there. Would the Kraken take him on? Maybe throw in a prospect or a pick. I'm not sure Brad Treliving would do that, just because the Calgary Flames prospect pool isn't that deep and they can't just go dangling future prospects and picks for the veteran. So moving on with Calgary, their protected list. So they have to protect Michael Backlund, Dylan Dubé, Gaudreau, Elias Lindholm, Andrew Mangiapane, Sean Monahan, Matthew Tkachuk, and then there's kind of a problem there with defense. You have Rasmus Anderson and Noah Hanifin, who are both in their prime, so Calgary has to protect them, which leaves Chris Tanev and Mark Giordano. Tanev is 6 years younger than Gio, carrying just a little bit of a lighter hit at 4.5, but he's an old 31. He sacrifices his body a ton. Whereas Giordano, who's revered as the Flames captain, and he's got 1 year left on an expiring contract of six and a half million, I believe. He would make a great captain for Seattle. He is a wonderful leader, and a young franchise would need that. He could be a rental if Seattle doesn't make the playoffs, and then they could flip him back to Calgary. If Ron Francis, the new GM of Seattle, wants a cheaper upside pick, he could pick Kylington, who is going to provide some great defensive depth. Now on to the Edmonton Oilers. James Neal was a big hit with Vegas. Could it work with the Kraken too? Maybe. Doubtful. He carries a hit of $5.75 million for 2 more seasons. It would take a nice little side deal with Ronnie Francis to take the James Neal bait. A better compromise would be Zach Kassian, who carries a $3.2 million AAV for 3 more seasons. 3 very important contributors will be hitting the UFA market. If Ken Holland wants to meet with them before, he's going to have to protect them. It's Adam Larson, Tyson Barrie, and Mike Smith. So there's a tough decision there because he can't protect all 3. But if he waits to talk to them after the draft, Seattle's going to get a chance to talk to all of the UFAs, and they could make some handshakes and deals before and get these players, but their team didn't sign them or protect them, so they're free to go where they want. And Seattle's becoming a super trendy and hot spot. If they're anywhere near as good as Vegas was last 3 years, everybody's going to want to play in Seattle. So they've got some big issues to work out. Obviously, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl are protected, including the 7 forwards, which I think they're going to go 7-3-1. Josh Archibald, Tyler Benson, Jujhar Khaira, the Jesse Puljujarvi, Kyler Yamamoto, Ethan Bear, Darnell Nurse, Caleb Jones. So it'll be interesting to see what they do, as well as with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, whose name's been popping up a bunch. I think, in my opinion, that before they even get to that point, I think Nugent-Hopkins is not an Oiler next year. I think he goes somewhere else, but they're not going to give him up for nothing. So that's it for Edmonton. The Montreal Canadiens, the Stanley Cup contenders this season, they don't have a lot to worry about. They have a great core, a young core, and none of those guys are leaving. They're all exempt, like Caulfield and Suzuki. So the guys that they're going to protect are Josh Anderson, Brendan Gallagher, Jake Evans, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, Arturi Lehkonen, Philip Deneau, Tyler Toffoli, Ben Chiarot, Joel Edmondson, Jeff Petrie, and Carey Price. The one person I think that makes a pretty interesting unprotected would be Jonathan Drouin. Jonathan Drouin is currently taking a leave of absence from the team, and he carries a $5.5 million cap hit. He has a chance to make a fresh start in Seattle if he does go over there, and he has a lot more upside than most of the players that will be available to the Kraken league-wide. So a Drouin pick would be a win-win. The Ottawa Senators have some really interesting picks for Seattle. If Seattle wanted to take a couple of young goaltenders, I would choose the Senators. They have Joey Daccord, Philip Gustafson, Marcus Hogberg, and most of those meet the league minimum range. Their protected list: forwards Drake Batherson, Connor Brown, Logan Brown, Nick Paul, Brady Tkachuk, Austin Watson, Colin White. And I think another interesting player for the Kraken would be Evgeny Dadonov. As you know, or maybe you don't know, Dadonov was a top 6 forward in Florida. He is highly skilled, but he slumped last year, like some players do. He said he would take less money, but then he had a really disappointing season. I think he could be a top pairing, a top line forward in Seattle if he gets the chance. But would Seattle consider taking a player who had a pretty disappointing season? Maybe they'll consider the fact that he plays for the Senators and the whole team had a disappointing season. Who knows? And now everybody's favorite Canadian team, the Maple Leafs. Or maybe they're not. Maybe you're a Habs fan. They're in cap hell. They really are. All of the players they have to protect. I mean, is it even, like, do I even have to tell you? Mitch Marner, Austin Matthews, William Nylander, John Tavares has a no movement clause. He was the only one in Toronto that got a no movement clause because, hey, Kyle Dubas is smart. You don't give out no movement clauses to everybody. You got to earn it. Just like he waited to name his captain, you got to earn it. As well as TJ Brody, Hull, Muzzin, Riley, and Campbell. I think, personally, Morgan Riley is not going to be a Toronto Maple Leaf next year. I don't know that he goes for nothing to Seattle, but he would be excellent there. He is one of, in my opinion, top 5 defensemen in the league. But I digress. They've also got some young talent, like in Kerfoot, who is fast and he plays well in all situations. He did get kind of nudged out of the lineup due to the Maple Leafs grooming Rasmus Sandin to play. So it'd be interesting to see if Seattle does take Dermott, as the Maple Leafs are not going to protect him. And for our last 2 teams, the Vancouver Canucks and the Winnipeg Jets. For the Canucks, I definitely see Tanner Pearson. As a Kings fan, I love the guy. He can play in all situations, and he's got a huge contract. He's like almost $6 million for 4 more years. So it might take a bit to get Seattle to take on his contract, but he's a good player, and he's got Stanley Cup pedigree, and he knows how to play playoff hockey, so he might come in handy in the playoffs. He definitely hasn't hit his ceiling yet, and I think there's more room for him to grow. Although, maybe they'll take Braden Holtby. He definitely has Stanley Cup pedigree, too. We've seen Braden Holtby come back and just dominate in the playoffs. And as a new team, and they're expected to make the playoffs, you're going to want a great goaltender. And Braden Holtby has definitely showed that he can keep his composure, and when his team needs him, he can perform. So those are my picks for Vancouver. And as for the Jets, I don't know. I'm just kidding. The Jets have a lot of forwards. They have Kyle Connor and Andrew Kropp and PLD, Ehlers, Lowry, Mark Scheifele, Blake Wheeler, DeMello, Morrissey, Pionk, and Hellebuyck. So they're going to protect all those 7-3-1 as well. But I can see Paul Stastny going to Seattle. He's a UFA. Maybe Derek Forbort. I mean, again, I've seen a lot of him play. Derek Forbort is a grinder. He will take a puck to the face, miss a shift, and be right back out there. They're going to need some tough guys playing in the West, especially with teams like Vegas out there. So they're going to have to be tough every night. And maybe, I don't know, maybe even like a Jordy Ben, who currently plays for the Jets. They could take him too. Or Nate Thompson, kind of an older guy, but they're going to have a good mix of veterans and rookies, as we saw with Vegas. So that wraps up the Canadians. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what your thoughts are. Hate it, love it. Be cool, be kind, and come back, because I'm going to do this all over again, but I'm going to do the Western, no wait, yes, I'm going to do the Western Conference, the Central Conference, and then hopefully we go back to the way it was, so it'd be Atlantic and Metro, but we'll see. Until next time, check you later.